Hello, you're here with T.
Yeah, Matthew.
And we are the Bing Zang Zoom podcast. First off, we are going to discuss a highly popular superstar's retirement. That's right. I have the unfortunate duty to inform you, the public, that the Undertaker has retired. Undertaker has spent 30 plus years entertaining us wrestling fans. And I would just like to say that Undertaker is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And even if he wasn't one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, he would be respected by me simply for being one of the top wrestling superstars throughout his entire career, pretty much, with the exception of just a couple of years in his formative years. So, digging in a little bit, The Undertaker, you may or may not know his real name. His real name is Mark Calloway, and he came into wrestling June 26th, 1987. He came to the WWE in 1990, actually as Survivor Series. And from 1990 on to 2020, he has been performing the entire time. So at a high level, you know, with opponents like The Rock, Triple H, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, you name it, he's wrestled them. Mankind, Shawn Michaels. One of the matches that people wanted to see for the longest was The Undertaker versus Sting, which unfortunately didn't come to fruition because of Sting's injury and then subsequent retirement. But yeah, this is a guy who has had an amazing career, world champion. He's had a WrestleMania streak that matches the legal age for certain substances, which is 21 straight victories. And although he's had some setbacks since, he still has a WrestleMania record of 23-2. So not to be overlooked. And that's just at WrestleMania alone, not to say his overall win-loss record, which I'm unsure of, but I'm pretty sure there's more wins than losses.
I mean, and the dude had a good gimmick too, which in wrestling is a big thing. And you know, all the wrestlers have their own gimmicks, but something about his and the way he presented himself and his theatrics, you know, just stood out way more than a lot of these guys do, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got like people like The Rock and Stone Cold, who, when you think about it, they were only around for a short amount of time. Even you look at John Cena, you know, he came to the WWE in 2002, got off to a little bit of a great start initially, and then it was rocky after that because he was just so generic that they didn't know what to do with him. But you know, he turned that around and made something of himself, much like The Undertaker. A lot of people don't know that The Undertaker had a previous gimmick, that he was Mean Mark Calloway in WCCW, which is the precursor to WCW. And during that time, he had the most devastating finisher of all time. That's right. The heart punch. That's right. No one wants that. Raise the arm up. Bam. Yeah. Now, mind you, I don't want to get heart punched by him, but it's not the most aesthetically pleasing finisher that you could possibly have. But
well, I mean, especially in compared to his WWE one, which was the what was it called?
Yeah. Now it makes plenty of sense. You go from a heart punch, which again doesn't look very great. So you know what? I'm the Undertaker. So where am I putting people? In the ground. How am I putting them in the ground? Head first. This is just
The only way to go.
yeah. Like as a kid watching the Undertaker, hearing his music, it just you hear that gong and it instantly captivates you. And as a kid, whatever else I was doing, whatever else I was thinking about, because between wrestling back in the days, they used to have the monster truck commercials and like Super Soaker commercials and stuff like that, right? And
Super
Undertaker
Soaker.
comes out,
Hope
and
you're
it's
talking
like,
about a water gun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh,
Like
man.
what time did it come on?
Yeah, right. Yeah, was this late night? Was it Monday Night Raw or was it different one? um, but like he definitely held true to that character, and even every little detail when he first came out, moving really slowly, and then making a fast motion. So you had to watch it because it's not like you have instant replay out the yin yang like you do now. You had to watch the match, and even the eye roll thing. He had his character down. And going back to his WrestleMania record, 23-2, 21 of those being straight WrestleMania victories. His only losses coming to Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, who are surefire Hall of Famers once they're done with their career.
Big names. It's not like he lost to Joe Blow.
Right. He didn't get rolled up or schoolboyed by the Red Rooster or something. And for him to have such longevity in a time, where things have changed so much in professional wrestling, right? So you had the era where you had like the Lightning Kid or this, that, or the third. You had to have a name attached, and then professional wrestling went towards taking the realism. You got people like Brock Lesnar and John Cena, and first and last names are showing up.
Yeah,
Roman Reigns, no Brock, and So you got somebody who's the Undertaker. He's not the Undertaker Mark Calloway, just the Undertaker. And for that name to still be respected, and for him to still be able to do what he has always done, walk the top ropes at 6'10", 300 plus pounds. Listen, I'm not walking the top rope. And I'm about half what he weighs. So for such a big guy to be doing that is amazing. For such a big guy to run across the ropes and jump out onto his opponent is amazing. So he's given us countless great matches, and I think that he deserves his flowers while he can still smell them, as opposed to having a posthumous retirement or celebration and whatnot. No, he needs to be able to see his work be appreciated. His last match was with AJ Styles. So you can't beat that either. Like his first match in was Survivor Series. He was main eventer then. He's maintained his main event status the entire time. And his last match is with one of the greatest, if not the greatest wrestler, in-ring performer. I know a lot of people liken that to Shawn Michaels, but in my case, I'm going to go ahead and say that AJ Styles tops him.
See, it's either AJ Styles or Harry Styles. It's one of those two. The Styles brothers.
Styles brothers, yeah. Yeah, so shout out to the Undertaker. Speaking of dark things, right? We're going to move into the potential role reprisal of The Dark Knight by Michael Keaton. This is big. This is interesting. Michael Keaton in 2020 is certainly not Michael Keaton in 1989, but as an actor and what the role would be, that interests me. I'm intrigued to see how they're going to utilize Batman in the Flash film.
Right. So let me start off by saying that I'm a little bit skeptical of this. I've gotten in a lot of online debates where people are telling me that straight up that it's like, no, you're wrong, you're wrong. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying I'm skeptical.
Right.
And the reason why I'm skeptical is because of two things. For one thing, he's not been confirmed in any way, shape, or form to have taken the part. It's been saying that he's in talks to take the part. Now,
Right.
that doesn't mean anything. Being in talks can mean that they're this close to signing paperwork, or being in talks can mean that somebody said, "Hey, you know who'd be good for that? Michael Keaton," and that could be it, right? The other reason why I'm skeptical is because it keeps being in every article I've seen. It says Ezra Miller's Flashpoint movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Ezra Miller had a big controversy earlier this year, and I won't really go into it, but ultimately it kind of left Ezra's fate of whether he was going to continue to play the Flash or not up in the air. And because of that, I don't think the studio would announce that Michael Keaton is going to be in Ezra Miller's Flash movie until they've decided whether Ezra Miller's still going to be the Flash. You know? And since they haven't really made any kind of statement either way on that, it makes me a little bit skeptical. Now, again, I'm not saying that this isn't true. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. I'm just saying that from a business standpoint, I'm still looking at this like I'm going to need more information before I get on board.
Yeah, it's not official news.
Right.
The prospect of it seems interesting because if you think about it, like the older gray-haired version of Batman in Batman Beyond, that I think watching Michael Keaton and seeing how he played the Vulture in Spider-Man, it seems like a perfect fit for him at this stage to play that part. It's interesting also that he, back in the days, that he turned down the offer to do the third installment of Batman. You know, he had done Batman, the 1989 movie. He did Batman Returns, and then he was they wanted him back for Batman Forever, and then you know offered him $15 million to do it, and he turned it down.
We got Val Kilmer instead.
Yeah. Man, but hey, I'll Val on the list of Batmans. Val is definitely near the end, but no, the very bottom. The very bottom has to go to George Clooney in my book.
Well, it's important to remember that both of those movies were directed by Joel Schumacher, and according to him, there was a big push by the studio to sell toys first. Sell the toys first. Make it more kid friendly. Make it more like the '66 one, and so that there was a lot of without Tim Burton's influence, Joel Schumacher kind of got ran over by all the toy companies and stuff. Speaking of which, he just died a few days ago. Joel Schumacher.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I think he was 89 if my memory is correct, but I could be wrong about that. And as terrible as the Batman movies that he did were, he did direct a lot of good movies. In fact, my favorite movie of all time he directed, which was Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera. So I don't think he's a bad director. I think that a lot of corporate influence and a lot of bad things happen with those movies. Nonetheless, Michael Keaton. So the thing that's also interesting about Michael Keaton possibly coming back as Batman is the movie's supposed to be a Flashpoint movie. And did you ever read Flashpoint?
No.
Okay. So essentially what the storyline of Flashpoint is that Barry finds out that his mother was killed by the Reverse Flash, a villain from the future. And so Barry goes back in time and stops the Reverse Flash from killing his mother. But in doing so, he destroys the timeline and causes an alternate reality where his mother's alive, but the world is post-apocalyptic and really bad. And in that world, Bruce was shot by Joe Chill, and his parents lived instead. And so his
Wow.
dad Thomas Wayne becomes Batman,
Wow. Wow.
and his mother becomes the Joker. So Martha's the
Wow.
Joker, and Thomas Wayne is Batman. And so a lot of people are saying, this is supposed to be a Flashpoint movie? Is he Thomas Wayne? Is he an older Bruce Wayne? Is it going to do Batman Beyond? Like, what are we getting from Michael Keaton? So even if Michael Keaton comes back, he might not be the same Batman that we all think and know.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, that's a new perspective. I didn't know that. I did not know that at all. No, no, the Reverse Flash is the one with the yellow and he's got the red bolt, right? Yeah.
Right.
So I've seen that Flash before, but no, I hadn't read Flashpoint before. Interesting. We'll see what happens with it. Now that you mentioned that, it doesn't seem like it fits because you got the guy that played Batman, and not like you can't have a person play someone else. He's been involved in Batman franchises, but you would think that if he's going to be involved in the Batman, in playing Batman, that he would be the same Batman that he was before, which would be Bruce Wayne. However, he could potentially play the older, the dad.
Yeah.
That's a different take on it. That's interesting.
Well, and just because that's what the books do doesn't mean that that's what the movie's going to necessarily do.
Also,
It could be, post-apocalyptic Batman, or it could even be the same one, just in Batman Beyond era. We don't really know.
Yeah, because Flash can change a lot of the of what goes on. With Flash, you can switch up a lot of stuff that they couldn't do with other characters. Like they could make a whole new movie based upon Flash and going back in time and stuff. It's interesting. I wish I could run that faster where I can go back in time really quick. Grab something I might have left somewhere. Forgot my keys. Me.
Damn it, Barry.
All right. Well, still with the entertainment news and hero news. What's this about Stargirl and Swamp Thing?
So DC Universe is the DC streaming service that they have out, and they've got out multiple original series. Now, lately, they've been trying to take their original series and put them on other networks as well. Swamp Thing was a one-season show, and its reruns are going to start airing on the CW. And Stargirl is both airing on the CW and on DC Universe pretty much at the same time. A couple days later, it appears. But what's interesting is because the shows were actually streaming shows, they didn't leave time for commercial breaks. So people are starting to there was no official announcement about this, but people are starting to realize that if they have both services, that they're like, wait a minute, why is the TV version like 4 scenes shorter? And so this is kind of an incentive to watch these on DC Universe as opposed to CW, because the CW versions are massively edited to fit the time space. So a lot of fans are kind of trying to figure out, if they want to re-sign up for DC Universe or they want to watch them on CW. And this is something that, again, Warner Brothers has not said. This is just something that the fans have figured out. That's like, wait a minute, why is this scene?
Yeah, I've noticed that with watching wrestling. Of course, you watch it live and you got the advertisements in between and stuff like that, and it ends up being a 3-hour show. But then when you watch it on like Hulu or YouTube TV, it's an hour and a half. It's an hour and a half worth of content. Interesting how that goes. But what do you think it would be beneficial to sign up for the app, or have people figured that out?
Yeah, I think that the DC Universe app has been in this kind of weird state where ever since it started, people are like, oh no, it's going to get shut down. But it keeps ticking along. And for a while there, it was doing really good numbers. Personally, I think the DC Universe app is one of the best streaming services out there because it has their original programming, which is great quality, but it also has a ton of comic books that you can read. So if you like digital comic books, there are so many series that's included in there that you can read all these great back issues, all these great legendary stories. So yeah, I really do recommend DC Universe streaming service for sure.
And what's this about Milestone Comics?
Yes, so Milestone Comics, back in February, when this was Black History Month, there was a documentary about Milestone that came out, and we talked about it on the show. But for those fans who maybe are new to our show, Milestone Comics was a comic line by DC in the 90s that was ran primarily by Dwayne McDuffie. And the point of it was to create more minority characters, particularly more African American characters. And they introduced a lot of really popular ones like Static Shock, Icon and Rocket, Hardware, etc., etc. And it was one of the best-selling comics at that time. But after it finished its run, nothing really happened, and these characters kind of fell into obscurity. And they keep talking about wanting to bring it back. Oh yeah, we're going to reboot Milestone Comics. Dwayne McDuffie, the head of Milestone Comics, had died several years back. I think around 2012, if my memory is correct. And every time they've started to bring it back, there'd been a lawsuit with his widow of, oh, well, Dwayne's estate needs this much or whatever, and it keeps getting canceled and keeps getting canceled. With everything going on in the world right now, which we won't deep dive into, but the other main guy from Milestone, I think his name is Denny Conway, had announced that him and Dwayne McDuffie's widow had come up with an agreement, and that officially Milestone Comics is coming back.
Yo, clap it up for Milestone. Clap it up for Milestone. Yeah. That's a plus. I mean, you need to have an outlet. And I think everybody needs an outlet at times for whatever may be going on internally. And it's something that you don't see too often, to be honest. Nowadays, you've seen progress towards making characters from other comic book companies. You've seen progress towards making characters universal, and to have something like Milestone Comics that's important towards doing that, and they actually might have been the ones to start that trend and keep the fire lit, and look at everything that's going on right now and look at how beneficial that could be to have people see representations of themselves, of all backgrounds. That's important, man. Not to mention, that's more money for movie makers and moviegoers and movie theaters that are in dire need of it right now, to be honest. That'll be something else that boosts interest right now. Just thinking from that standpoint as well. It's a win-win for everybody, so why not? And so I guess they finally agreed, like, yeah, let's get on this ball. Yeah, that's good to know. That's the perfect way to end this year off, or hopefully sometime soon they can get the ball rolling on this. But 2020 has been a rough one, man. There's been some positive things, but it's been rough between COVID and everything going on right now. It's pretty tough. So as we wrap up here, I just say, hold your head, keep gloves and mask on deck. Hit the Macaulay Culkin and then just slide to the front, right? I see some people wear their mask, and it's become a fashion statement to wear their masks here. And just funny because I saw
like a scarf at that point.
Yeah. I saw this video of Andrew Cuomo, him saying having an entire press conference basically about how to wear a mask, right? And regardless of whether you agree with whatever he thinks, that's besides the point. When it comes to the mask, he puts it on. He says, "This is how you wear a mask." He says, "This is a mask." He puts it down. He says, "This is your chin guard." Don't wear a chin guard. Wear a mask. That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, what is it, like the beard guard thing? You know, that's what it looks like. People put the mask
like
down here.
like a sandwich restaurant. You know, those people have them, right?
Like, oh, this is great. This is just what I needed. Get all the peanut butter out right into the mask, and it's fine. But yeah, man, good seeing you. Bing Zang Zoom 20. We're still kind of in quarantine, so I guess quarantine. But it's been good. Thank y'all for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time. Farewell.